Alrighty.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for watching the Barre Beat podcast live, Main Street, Barre, Vermont, the Inside Scoop Studios. With us tonight, of course, we have the ever lovely Raylene.
Thank you, Michael.
And tonight, we're super excited to deploy Malloy.
Yes.
Gerald Malloy is with us in studio. How you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, no, thank you for coming up. You came all the way from
Weathersfield in Windsor County.
Windsor County. Wow. That's like an hour.
Hop, skip, and a jump.
Right, a little hike.
Little bit of a hike.
Right up 91, 89. Pretty easy.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming into studio.
pleasure.
It's
Yes,
it's
we
wicked
do.
awesome to have you here. I know that for people in Barre City, we certainly want to know who we're voting for and who our options are, and not only Barre City, but you're running for a state position.
Yes, I am running against Senator Bernie Sanders, running for U.S. Senate, Republican nominee. Very excited. Things are going great. Been to some events in Barre here recently, but going all over the whole state, and I think folks are ready for a change. I know. We need to get some balance back in, and get rid of the supermajority here at the state level. Same thing applies at the congressional level. We've got one socialist and two far left representatives in D.C., and I'm going to do a better job for Vermont. Vermont's not in a good direction right now.
Yeah. No, Vermont is definitely struggling. I would definitely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Married, 4 kids, 24 to 15. So I got one in high school, 2 in college still, and my wife Stacy. You've met Stacy.
Yep.
Fortunate enough at 18 to ship off to West Point, get accepted there. Played hockey and baseball at West Point, and 4 years learning about leadership and duty and honor and country. Great experience, very challenging. I did 22 years on active duty, so I've served in Europe, Asia, Persian Gulf, Middle East. I am a veteran. I like to say I've actually been part of foreign policy to produce peace, a lot of different ways. I've also seen some terrorism things. I actually flew out of Logan on 9/11. I've lived in the Khobar Towers. I've lived in the Amman Radisson, all sites of terrorist attacks, and did a couple of years, 2 years after retiring, working with the government, mostly across DHS and HHS, in the last 16 years in business. So I've worked for some large companies. I lead efforts to try to win new services contracts, mostly across the government. I actually think that's very applicable. I've got an MBA along the way. I've got Command and General Staff College. I got a graduate certificate not too long ago from Georgetown for data analytics. So I've been working in technology fields for quite a while now. But I think between that, I can bring jobs to Vermont, which is one of the things I definitely want to do. And my title is business development, so I actually engage government customers, military folks mostly, and hear about their issues and problems. And I put together a technical proposal and a pricing proposal, very, very competitive, to try to win new work. I think that's kind of relative to being, a senator, listening to the people, hearing about some of the issues, and developing solutions. Right now, we need to actually have solutions. We're not getting solutions. We're getting a lot of false promises, actually, and at the federal level and at the state level that are, like I said, leading Vermont unaffordable, unsafe. I want to change that. I love this state, so that's me in a nutshell.
Vermont's an amazing state, no doubt about it. Are you originally from Vermont?
Nope, born in Boston. Yeah.
That's what I was
Can you
trying
tell
to
a
catch
little
the.
bit? Yeah. I got rid of most of the Boston accent. I didn't get rid of it, but over time. But born in Boston, Dorchester actually, and grew up in Boston suburbs, Newton and Westwood public schools. Big family, Irish Catholic. So I'm actually the oldest of 9. One passed away very young. So there's myself and 7 others all across New England. So we got Maine, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Vermont covered right now. So.
Nice. I could hear the accent. I wasn't sure for
exactly
certain.
where.
Yes,
Yep.
it's you you've lost part of it being in Vermont.
Yeah, well, and being all over the world. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, well,
it's,
that's true.
But
That's
you're right.
true.
When I got to West Point, some people were like, "What? What did you say?" You know, and of course, I was the same way because I'd meet guys from Texas and Georgia, and different accent. Even Long Island, there's a different little
Yeah,
accent there. So
Everything is different, for sure.
it is. It is. You've got kids all the way through the entire system and still in school, out and everything. That's awesome. Represent the general population for sure with that.
Right. Well, that's one of the things I could kind of talk about. I really get right down to it. I don't like the future that I see for my kids. And I've watched them, particularly my youngest. He's 15. He's a sophomore in high school, and the last 4 years have been tough on kids. And I think a lot of that we made some kind of bad decisions, but it's been tough on kids. And I don't like. Well, going back into the government aspect. We have a $36 trillion debt. That's dangerous. I don't like even saying the word, but frankly, we're about bankrupt. And that's dangerous, and for our entire economy. And so there's, same thing with the borders, the wide open borders. I travel all over the state. Vermont has a fentanyl crisis right now, has a crime crisis right now, and we have open borders that are kind of fueling that, including this. I don't know if you saw an article recently about the Swanton sector. The last 10 months, enough apprehensions. Enough apprehensions equal to the previous 10 years.
Yeah.
And including a lot of known and suspected terrorists. So we're, frankly, our security at that point is in danger. Never mind the drugs that are coming in mostly through the southern border and ruining cities and towns and families in Vermont and across America. So a lot of things I want to do as a U.S. Senator to try to fix some of the issues and actually bring some discipline back. We're going to have another $2 trillion year overspending. Going back a couple of years, that dumping money into the economy caused the inflation we're still feeling. I go grocery shopping. It's painful. It's still so. I think the Republican Party, you've probably seen the Get Real platform at the state level. It's fantastic. It's all common sense. I've got a lot of the same ideas for the federal level, including the border and bringing jobs. Definitely want to make Vermont more business friendly. I really don't think anyone's visited more businesses because I've walked up and down, in and out, everything resembling a city in Vermont. Walked into business, and the common theme is leave me alone. You're overregulating, you're overburdening me, and you're running me out of business. And Vermont's a small business state, so it's very hard. So I know I'm talking too much, but
No. This is seriously
Exactly
this is,
what we want to have happen.
Right. We want. This is about you, not us.
okay.
I mean, we want to hear from you because
Sure.
we want to know. Do we want to vote for you as a community? And you talking is helping us out. I do got a question that you brought up. You brought up the law enforcement side of things.
Sure.
And as many people know in the state of Vermont, that have lived here for decades, it feels like, and maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like there's a lot of crime.
There absolutely is.
Yeah.
Vermont, never. Yeah, I grew up in Massachusetts. I looked at Vermont. Vermont, it's never looked at as a place with crime. We have that now, and there's several reasons for that. I'll go back to defund the police. We have every single Democrat representative vote in favor of that act, which undermined our law enforcement community. I'm sure, I don't know Barry for specifically, but communities are having trouble recruiting police officers and manning. But that's just one piece. The other piece is the whole progressive prosecutor movement. The progressive left has ushered that in, supported it, and it's just kind of results in catch and release, the same criminals doing things. And then up in Burlington, and I can tell you, I meet folks all the time. And if Burlington comes up, pretty much the most common response is, I don't go to Burlington anymore.
Yeah.
And that's sad. It's a great
My
city.
response.
Yeah, so
Mine too.
it's got a crime problem. You walk around and see needles on the front. I went up there on primary day. I visited 17 different primary sites, every one in Burlington. And Fletcher Library, just a couple of blocks from City Hall. There were people, unfortunately, it's very sad, but clearly mental health issue folks and folks really on drugs. I mean, bad, like running around screaming up and down that street. And I'm just trying to go in and, people are just trying to go in to vote on primary day. It was actually unsafe. So I think we got to, get back, support our law enforcement community, start enforcing the law. It gets right back to the border. We have immigration laws. It's Congress's job. If we need to modify those or change those, fine. But we can't have a wide open border, because what's happening, I don't think most folks really realize this, is China is pumping in the ingredients, the precursors to make fentanyl in Mexico, and it's coming in through our wide open southern borders. It's going across the whole state, and that much can kill you.
Right.
Like I said,
Exactly.
you've got a 15-year-old, and frankly, I worry at night. I mean, kids are kids, and it's unsafe.
Right. So it would your stance on the defund the police movement would be
Against it. Yeah.
Clearly against.
I support our
Right.
law enforcement community, and every parade, and I do all sorts of parades. In fact, I was in Tunbridge yesterday, and I make a habit to walk up and say thank you to for your service to the fire department, EMS, police, because they're out there doing their job, and it really gets back all the way back to the Constitution. I mean, the Constitution, the whole idea for the Constitution is to provide just enough order so that we can all enjoy the liberty, freedoms, and rights of the Constitution. We don't have that now. And then there's the other piece about less government, more government. I think the progressive left Democrats are way in the more government camp, and the Republican party's in the less government, and let the open market, fair, free open market kind of exist, and folks have the opportunity for prosperity. You mentioned struggle. My opponent, I didn't realize until this fairly recently, but his X site, if you ever looked at it, the banner says, "The struggle continues." It doesn't have to continue. Socialism, it will continue, and that's where we are now. We've moved way over here. Like I said, but being from born in Boston, I've watched Vermont my whole life. Been coming up here my whole life, and frankly, Vermont has gone from kind of maybe a little bit on the right side to redlining on the left right now, and it's just not working. The 12 vetoes,
Right. And Matt and the gas to go
Well,
over.
Vermont.
12 vetoes that were
Frightening.
overridden from our Republican governor. That's, to me, that's very bad, because that's a legislature telling the Vermont public, Vermonters, we don't care that you overwhelmingly support this top leader, governor, Republican governor. We're going to go with this, agenda and make it unaffordable.
Yeah. Vermont, and I can, historical context, Vermont definitely was extremely Republican
100
side.
years, Congress,
we
100
actually,
years straight, nothing but Republicans.
we put forth the best president in the 20th century for certain.
Yeah.
Calvin Coolidge, for those that don't know, was the best president of the 20th century. I mean, I'm sure that the Ronald Reagan fans would probably give me some guff about that, and he's definitely right up there. I would say Ronald Reagan was pretty amazing too.
Yep, both. I'm a big Calvin Coolidge fan, and I live pretty close to Plymouth and been up there many times. And less government, small business, education, fiscal responsibility, all those things that we need.
We got to be careful, because we start talking about Calvin Coolidge and historical stuff. We're gonna the numbers are gonna go. They're gonna plummet.
Well, I can bring it right up to the minute. You mentioned you talk about good administrations.
Yeah.
I actually, maybe I shouldn't say this. I'm going to say it anyways.
Yeah.
Don't.
No, it's okay. I actually hope maybe Vermonters will, if they want, take a look at your U.S. Senator that spoke at the DNC recently. Gave a long speech. I don't know if you caught that. Senator Sanders. Long speech. There's one word he didn't mention in that long speech. Vermont. Didn't say it. And then he talked at one point, he talked about the current administration being the most accomplished administration since FDR. And, you know, we're here on planet Earth now. We got to bring it into reality with the, 40-year high inflation, record high gas prices, the crime and the drugs. They can't claim that at all. And the two new wars, I talk about 5 years ago, 2% inflation. We didn't have two new wars, $2 gas, $2 home heating oil. Things aren't better; they're worse.
Yeah. So you did mention war,
Yes.
and I'm gonna ask you about one
Sure.
that's very controversial at this moment in time.
Yeah.
It's regarding Israel
Sure.
and Palestine, or against Hamas. It's not against Palestine,
Right.
and that's my opinion. It's about Hamas. As a senator, this is going to be stuff that you're going to be dealing with on that level, and I know that I certainly would love to know what your take is on the Israeli
Sure.
Hamas issue.
Well, actually, there's some similarities, Ukraine and Israel. I actually think, going back to the debacle that was the withdrawal from Afghanistan, I can talk more about that, but that prompted Russia to decide to attack Ukraine. So I think we're complicit in that, particularly our commander-in-chief and his right-hand person, the last person in the room. And the 13 service members that died, and we've seen some things where they've not acknowledged that. That's disgraceful. So there's the one piece, but also turning the funding spigot back on for Iran, which funds Hamas and Hezbollah, and I think that led directly to Hamas, doing a terrorist act on October 7th, which is horrible. So I've, since day one on both, I've supported Israel defending itself and ensuring its security. I've also talked about having, I've been in combat. I'm a veteran. I pray for peace every day. I want to achieve peace, but I do respect Israel as a sovereign nation to defend itself and ensure its security against terrorism. That's what it was. I mean, people kind of lose sight of that. There was 1,200 men, women, children, babies, raping, and in that. So it's a horrible situation, but I support Israel, and for both, what I've said is I do support America providing equipment. I'm not in favor of either one really, but lobbying over billions of dollars to either country, that's not our role, particularly in Europe. I mean, I think other European nations can support Ukraine with funding if they want, and they should, but the United States doesn't need to throw it over into essentially a black hole without accountability, which I think has gone on way too much already, to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars already. So, yeah. And actually, there's actually a little bit more. So I mentioned growing up in Newton Center. So I'll just get it all out there. I'm Irish Catholic, but I grew up in Newton Center. Was mostly Jewish people. So most of my friends growing up were Jewish kids. And I love them. I don't, and the argument. I hear people kind of make an argument about 75 years ago or 1,000 years ago and how Israel was, established, and there was peace. There was peace there, and then there was a terrorist act committed. So I think that's the thing to focus on. And if some other, solution, one side or the other wants a different solution to, the Gaza area, but then they could do that peacefully. But killing 1,200 people, 240 people at a concert, is not acceptable.
And keeping them as hostages for
Still,
over
American
a year.
hostages today.
And
Yeah, we got to be coming up
almost
on
a year, sorry.
350
Almost a year.
days, maybe about.
And then anytime Israel gets close, murdering them like.
Well,
Anyway, sorry, I won't
No,
go
it's
down
a-
that road. I'll stay. For folks that are, thank you for tuning in. If you got a question for Gerald, I'm sure he'll field that,
Sure.
and we'll ask it. So thank you for your comments on that.
Oh, yeah. You can ask me anything. We can even do some of the hard ones. If
The
you
hard ones,
Oh,
the
yeah.
hard ones.
Sure.
Nah, no,
Well,
we
I
do
think
hard.
we
I mean,
both
that was a
think
hard
That
one.
one is a hard one.
Oh, it is a
because
hard
it's
one.
so
But there's some others in
controversial.
Vermont that
Yeah,
folks
it's
are.
so controversial, and yeah, we've
Yeah,
it
there's.
definitely.
It's definitely a controversial issue that
Oh,
shouldn't
oh,
be
it is.
controversial.
And well, I'll probably say too much here again, but I did the Montpelier 4th of July parade, and I got there a little early, and there was a very large group just in front of my vehicle, and we're going to be in the parade. And the governor was up and around the corner, and Senator Sanders behind him. Went up, said hi to the governor, and then came back. But this large group was pro-Palestine. Bullhorn at the top, and they were chanting out some really horrible, bad things the entire time. And 4th of July parade, and I'm like, I respect free speech, but death to America and death to Israel and things like that is not right.
Right, and there's a place for all of that, and that certainly wasn't it.
Yeah.
So I will throw a real softball to you. So obviously in national news, we've been dealing with, attempted assassinations.
Yeah. Another one.
And
Yesterday. Yeah.
I think that what are your thoughts about the rhetoric that is happening within our country?
Sure. It's interesting. So I went to the RNC. I actually gave the roll call for Vermont at the RNC in Milwaukee. And I was actually going from here to Baltimore on Saturday, and I'm driving down, and somebody called me up and said, "Hey, turn on your radio." So I turned it on, and the president assassination had just happened in Pennsylvania. So I listened to that for hours, and next day, early flew out to Milwaukee, and so at that point there was talk about toning it down, and I think we all saw that during the Republican National Convention. It was toned down, and President Trump showed up there on Monday. It was unbelievable. I mean, I felt very good about our country kind of turning back in the right direction Monday through Thursday. Right after that, it seemed to elevate back up a little bit, and I do think, particularly the Democrats, progressive left, they keep pounding in threat to democracy and all these words about the candidate, President Trump. Some people, unfortunately, there are some folks out there that have some mental issues and mental health issues, and I think another one was yesterday, where I think details are still coming out there, but they saw the backpack and the AK, and again, I'll even take it a little step further. I go to church and all that, and I actually believe that God wants President Trump to be the president, because I was in the Army a long time, and the first attempt in Pennsylvania, prone position with that kind of rifle, 148 yards, should have made that shot.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that he didn't, that our president's still alive, but he's here. And so here's another attempt yesterday, and they say assassination attempt. I think we can say that pretty confident that's what the person was trying to do. So I think we need to definitely tone it down. It's very, very concerning, twice now. It's very concerning. And,
it has to make you, I mean, because at the end of the day, anybody that's running for a position, has to have that kind of like, golly,
Right,
you
Right.
know,
Yeah, frankly, yeah, I'm running for U.S. Senate, and yeah, it's I mean, I'm running on my own merit to be a U.S. Senator to represent Vermonters. I have my personal opinion about who I think the next president should be for different reasons, mainly policy, not personality, but policy. But yeah, there are folks out there that really, I guess, could take great offense to that and really believe some of the rhetoric that of threat to democracy, which I don't believe. I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Anybody that's going to go into U.S. Senate and defend the Constitution, that's me. I mean, I believe it. It has no duration. It's the exact same oath I took when I graduated West Point that a U.S. Senator takes. Bear faith, true faith, and allegiance to the same. So I'm going to do that. There's no, we're not going to have a dictator. It's not going to happen. So I hope folks, both sides, frankly, tone it down a lot. But I do think the left has been overdoing it for way too long now.
So let's just say it does happen, right? Donald Trump is elected, and he starts going down that road that everybody's afraid of him going down as a dictator. And we'll say that you got elected. What do you see yourself? Obviously you would uphold the Constitution,
Right.
correct?
Right, and we have checks and balances in the Constitution. I mean, there's the triangle there, and I mean, frankly, I mean, we could say some things about the other side. I mean, when the president, during the State of the Union address, berates his Supreme Court and makes comments like, "I'm going to overrule you." No, he's not. That's not how our government works. So there's some things been going on both sides. But enforcing the Constitution, I will say, another example, for me is we have the president deciding on his own unilaterally, I'm going to spend $500 billion or more so that you and we can all pay somebody else's school loan. I don't. He doesn't have that authority. Congress is supposed to make decisions about spending, not the president. So there's some cleaning up to do to get back to the Constitution. I will, I tell people I will gladly work across the aisle. I will, try to get solutions, but it's going to start with this Constitution and abiding by that. And I think all the rhetoric has people believing that something, that bad might happen related to the future next president, but I don't see that happening. I don't think anything bad. I think frankly, I think he's the one person that can actually reunite our country, because really, if you go back 2019, 5 years ago before COVID, things were going pretty well. We didn't have 2 new wars. Like I said, we had 2% inflation. Economy was certainly doing a lot better, but I think it would become more divisive, which I don't like. I don't like that at all. And like I said, we had the 40-year high inflation. Inflation's still with us, so we've got a lot of things to work on as a government.
So we do have a question.
Sure.
Glenn is asking what your thoughts are on January 6th, because as
Sure.
a Republican, I know that I'm sure eventually someone's going to ask me that as a Republican.
Sure.
So I think it's just something that every Republican gets asked.
Yeah. So I ran in 22, and I was asked about that many times. Position still is, those that broke the law need to be held accountable.
Yep.
Getting back to this, and I'm not condoning any kind of law breaking at all, but we have a First Amendment. The First Amendment, gives the right to peaceably assemble and to petition the government. And I think I wasn't there, I know some folks that went. I heard different numbers. I mean, let's say there were hundreds of thousands of people there that went to hear the current president speak, and they did that, and then some folks decided to take it too far and start breaking laws and doing things in the Capitol. You might have heard President Trump during the debate about Nancy Pelosi and whatever happened there. And if you watch some videos, it might almost look like the Capitol Police are waving people in. So there's some different things going on. But if I think there was some law breaking, they should be held accountable.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, and I feel like this is like a jumping at you all the questions. We try to be nice and friendly and cordial here, but I gotta bring it up because you mentioned Iran
Yep.
and your military service.
Yep.
I would like to know, because, and I understand people's concerns of eternal wars and not
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
not liking eternal wars, but I would like your thoughts on
Right.
the withdrawal, the war in Iran. What's your, what as a military person?
Yeah. I'm opposed to forever wars. I don't want us getting into another 10 or 20-year war like Afghanistan. I do think...
Afghanistan. Thank you for correcting me on that.
That's okay.
I apologize.
I do think we should have maintained a presence in Afghanistan because, that is where the, Taliban was, and for us to think, oh, we'll just leave
just went
and
away.
it would be fine. 15 minutes later, they took control of the country. And, one of the things that I can tell you, I met the Afghanistan ambassador woman to the United States back maybe 2019. Met her, talked to her, and she was at a think tank event, and she was pleading with the whole crowd. There was some members of Congress in there too, pleading, said, please don't just abandon us. You will set women back 100 years. And that is what has happened. And now, there's some other pieces to that. They are the #1 heroin producing country in the world. They were harboring Osama bin Laden before, during, and after 9/11. So I would have kept a presence there, and I certainly wouldn't have. And that's one of the things the U.S. Senator does. He advises on foreign policy, but I would have advised and sought to push have an orderly, way more orderly withdrawal, but to maintain a presence there. And I can tell you my own experience. I was in Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Foreign policy spectrum. At some point, you might need combat operations. I think we did there. We went and defended an ally, liberated an ally, defeated an aggressor, kind of in and out. And that's how I would, if it comes to that, that would be the way that I would support. Definitely not this, 10, 20 years of war.
Yeah. Geopolitics is not easy to deal with. That's
No,
for sure.
no, it's not. I think, a lot of things, Korea is not stable. I think Syria, I think, China and Taiwan, I think our army, frankly, if you want, I actually think our army's in pretty good shape. I think our Navy needs some work right now. And a couple of things, but.
Yeah. So you also mentioned during the State of the Union address where President Biden had berated our Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And, the checks and balances that were meticulously created in our system are there for a reason.
Sure.
And one of those things that has been floated out there by
Opposed.
Stacking
it and growing
okay.
it. Yeah.
Stacking the court.
Getting back, this document is to create a more perfect union, so there is an amendment process, and we could look at that. I don't think that is necessary. I don't think that's, stacking the court is obviously not a good idea. And people, I'll tell you, people talk about term limits, Actually, I think term limits might be a good, an okay idea, and that could possibly get through the amendment process or convention of states process, Article 5. But all Vermonters, we all can vote. That's the whole thing. I mean, I will say this: the whole campaign funding piece, which makes it harder to unseat an incumbent, but in the end, it's Vermonters, it's the citizens vote, for people. So if they're not happy, they can vote people out. But I'm not in favor of. I'll listen to any idea, but I'm not in favor of stacking the court. And really, just to get right, what President Biden was talking about there was I forget the Dobbs and Roe v. Wade and being overturned. And when I ran in 22. I wrote that right in my platform that I think, again, per the Constitution, per the 10th Amendment, where it says if a power is not banned from the states or reserved elsewhere in the Constitution, it goes to the states and the people respectively. I think that's one of the kind of overarching principles of the Constitution, and I support that. I have my personal beliefs, but as a U.S. Senator, which I hope to be, I will support it, abortion, frankly, being a state issue. I won't support it coming up to the federal level, sweeping legislation pro or con. My hope would be that someday, here in Vermont, Vermonters will look at the law in the books up to the moment of birth, and say, let's change that. But that's up to this people of Vermont through their representation. It's per our Constitution, let the states decide. So that's my position on that.
So I know Glenn is sitting here saying that he disagrees with, or that he wants term limits.
Yeah. We can look into term limits. I've thought about 2 and 2 and 5 or 3 and 6, and
I'm going to fight you on the term limit.
One more time?
I'm going to fight you on term limits.
Okay. Well, so personally, I don't know if it would get through Congress. That's the whole idea.
Definitely wouldn't.
Probably wouldn't. But going back, we have the vote. I mean, so if you are a Vermonter and you're kind of sick of false promises about health care and education and housing and everything else, free this, free that, for 40 years, you want to get rid of somebody, say, don't vote for them.
Yeah, that's the term limits right there.
Exactly.
I mean,
right.
The term limits are every 6 years for a senator, and it's every 6 years for
it's 6 for two for a congressman representative, and then Senate 6 years. Side note: my opponent just turned 83. Do the math; he'll be well into 89. Vermonters are not going to get the representation they deserve from. They're not getting it already, but it's not going to get any better.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't see Senator Sanders around here an awful lot as it is.
No. Once in a while at the
Well,
coffee shop.
I
He
know,
doesn't
that's-
like it around here.
Yeah.
Don't go up to someone and get up in their face when they're getting coffee.
That's it. Apparently
We had a situation a
really?
while back about that situation where.
Well, I met Senator Sanders on Memorial Day, and it was not very good.
Oh, that's too bad. And that
Well,
gets back to
I could tell you why. Because it was at the Virgins parade, did the whole parade. I think Senator Sanders might have walked the whole parade. I got at the top of the hill, and there was a gazebo and the flag and all that, and they had a very solemn ceremony. And a couple of veterans spoke, and then he was going to be the guest speaker. And he got up there, and he talked about himself, Gaza, and Ukraine on Memorial Day during a solemn ceremony about our fallen heroes. And I was like, not appropriate.
Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah, that's too bad. But I do disagree with you on the term limits. Only because
only because you were in city
I was
council
in city
for so
council
long.
for 14 years.
So you said we should have them or shouldn't?
Shouldn't.
Should not. Okay. And I thought of some tweaks there. I mean, I thought of 2 and 5 or 3 and 6. For Senate and House. And I've actually thought of, if it did start to go through an amendment process, there could be some tweaks in there, for, a certain percentage, override that for a term or two. And
I only have a problem with it because I would have been termed out of my position. So
Right.
well,
And maybe city
I wanted to go
towns
20
would be
years
different.
on city council. So
see, I'm not so sure we're getting down to that level
Yeah.
for term.
No,
I'm talking
Right,
about
exactly.
Congress.
no, it
Exactly.
definitely.
Yeah.
I there is a part of me that would agree with that. The term limits for people in that higher position. It's
For sure.
You look at the president and how we have the 8-year term limit
Right.
there, and I think that served our country well. And
Yep.
honestly,
Yeah.
the 40, 50 years in the legislature where people are getting
Right.
dementia medication
Right.
in the in the legislature, so maybe term limits wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right.
That might be a conspiracy about the dementia medication. I don't know. So I may have just spread misinformation. I apologize to everybody that's watching if I spread misinformation about dementia medication being dispersed at the pharmacy at the State House or whatever.
Yeah.
Not the State House,
Well-
but yeah, the State House.
It's
I think
tough.
that was an actual. I think that was an actual story a couple
Oh, I
years
think it
back.
might have been. I mean, Senator Feinstein, passed away.
Oh, yeah.
Rest in peace. But she was not doing well.
What about the guy that's Guam is gonna capsize?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, you don't know about that?
No, I don't know.
He was talking to a military guy, and they were talking about bringing people into Guam, and he's sitting there and he's like, concerned with all these people coming to Guam and the amount of people causing it to capsize. And literally the guy, the general was like, we don't see that as a problem.
Yeah. It's not on the
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, not on the
Threats.
list of
Not on the
things.
list of threats.
Capsize.
True story. You can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff
that's
up.
fine.
Google it. I can't remember the guy's name for the life of me. I think he was from Georgia. But anyway, so yeah. So tell me something that you really feel strong about for the Senate. Is there something that's just like the
Yeah.
big one?
I would say the border, and that's because Bennington, Brattleboro, Burlington, maybe Barre, some Springfield.
Very a lot.
There's a fentanyl problem and a drug problem that I think is coming from the fentanyl, based on the fentanyl trafficking. So secure the border and actually take some very serious actions against China until the flow, maybe it will never stop, but I mean, slow it way down because it's intentional, actually. They're pumping it, I call it chemical warfare. That is
I agree
actually
with
what's
that
going
statement.
on. And so that's one thing. I also, want to work with our Republican governor. And, one of the things, he talks about, and he's right, about people, Vermont becoming unaffordable and unsafe and a place to leave. So people are leaving, young people, 18 to 50. I meet them all the time. I'm leaving or I'm this close to leaving. I'm going to pack up my business. I'm going to go somewhere else, go to Florida, go to Georgia, the Carolinas, Tennessee. But I want Vermont to be a place where you can stay and raise a family. And I think part of that is to bring technology, innovation, research, and development jobs to Vermont. I think I can do that based on my relationships across a lot of industry. I've thought about kind of focusing that on the semiconductor industry up in Greater Burlington with Global Foundries from there, and then also on energy solutions because I know there's a very, very deep concern with a lot of Vermonters about the climate, and but there's also a lot of work to do, with wind, solar, and electric, and affordability, and reliability, and safety to improve those solutions. And I think Vermont could be a kind of a hub for that, because Vermont kids, I think too many. I think actually UVM in-state attendance, I think, is decreased quite a bit. But I want it so he can, guy or gal can go to UVM, maybe get an engineering degree, and then stay in Vermont and raise a family. This mass exodus thing is just a bad future for the state. I mean, with the taxes are already high enough, and like the property tax, I don't know about, did Barre go up, or I don't know.
The city went up. Yeah, I think everybody went up really.
Well, 14% average increase. But I mean, there are places like my middle son went to St. Johnsbury Academy. They got 25%. And St. Johnsbury can't afford that.
No.
Right.
Thetford got 31%. I think Plymouth, Coolidge, 36.
Granville, I think, got 38. Barre
Really?
City, yeah. Barre City didn't get hit hard with the increase. We're a receiving district.
Okay.
If it weren't for the CLAs, I believe the common level of appraisal, that if we didn't have the issues with that, I think we would have been going down.
Yeah.
Because in Barre City it was 1%, and in Barre Town it was 3%.
Okay.
So we didn't get hit too hard. So thankfully.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I mean, start with safety, and then go right into the economy and trying to build up Vermont's economy, so Vermont could be a place to stay and raise a family.
I have to say,
and safety is a direct result of that as well. I
Oh,
mean,
sure.
These businesses are closing constantly because,
Oh, yeah.
theft and crime, and they don't feel safe, and they
Rutland-
can't employ
Rutland.
safely,
Yeah,
even.
Talk to business owners in Rutland, and people come in that are, on drugs, and it gets to be dangerous. So it's bad.
yeah. I have to say, I see your signs everywhere I go when I'm
Yes, me
driving
too.
on the four-wheeler in Thompson.
Oh,
It's like
really?
every house has a Gerald Malloy
Well,
sign.
I want to say thank you to my whole team. I've got a whole bunch of volunteers. You go on my website, it's Deploy Malloy, and you can actually go and say if you want a sign, we'll get some signs delivered to you. But I have folks that deliver the signs all over the state, and it's very encouraging. I think. I mean, I was at Tunbridge. I was actually there all 4 days, but I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday I kind of camped near the exit, and I might have met 1,000 people.
Wow.
And it's very encouraging because not too many are kind of locked in.
Right.
I'm a Bernie person. Not too many. I think more and more folks are realizing that it's
Time to move
It's the
forward.
same false promises. It's not delivering results for Vermont. I've actually worked for 40 years producing results, and I think more and more folks are realizing, okay, if you're not, let's not keep doing the same thing because it's not working. So, time for change, time for some balance at the state and the federal level.
Yeah. If you the old adage of if you press A and B pops up and you don't want B, stop pressing A.
You're right. Yeah.
That's right.
I was just I was reflecting on something that you said about campaign financing, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
a doozy of an annoyance and struggle with me because I don't understand it and I mess up all the time with the deadlines and everything else.
Right.
But you made a comment that I hadn't thought about previously, which is it benefits the incumbent.
Oh,
And I never even thought about that. But yeah, I mean, thinking it through, I mean,
So
how do
Bernie-
you break through that incumbency
yeah. It's-
without,
I can tell you. So, I think Senator Sanders has spent $5 million on this campaign already. I haven't spent anywhere near that.
Oh my God.
But he's got a war chest. Of course, he ran for president twice, so he's got a many millions of dollars. And that is a steep obstacle for a challenger to try to overcome. Just the media aspect alone,
Yeah.
Which unfortunately you can put anything on the TV and it might look good, but not. But so yeah, it's very challenging, and I mean I've actually heard him talk recently about campaign finance reform, which is kind of interesting because there's no way I'm ever going to be able to raise or spend $5 million on this campaign, but he's already done that. But so it's you're at a distinct disadvantage. I do think some
That's crazy.
type of
Yeah.
campaign finance, and actually, yeah, it goes back. I mean, in 22, they had some people donating to some right here in the state. Part of the FTX folks that were donating to.
I mean, Act Blue in itself is.
That's what I was
mean,
gonna say.
creeped out by Act Blue. I don't know how people can raise $2,000, $3,000 on Act Blue overnight. It's phenomenal and how that works. But good for them, I guess,
yeah,
right?
I mean, I've had individuals just supporting me, and I do fundraising, and it kind of goes like that. But it's I'm very, very grateful. There's a lot of very generous people out there, so
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
So we're getting close to an hour, but before we send you off and give you your opportunity to say, hey, vote for me for this reason. As we've got this really nifty setup of that we're doing here, a podcast live on Facebook. We're streaming on Facebook. We're streaming on YouTube.
Nice.
We used to stream to Twitch, but we gave up Twitch because nobody else watched Twitch. Maybe one of these days we'll set it up with X, but we haven't gotten that far yet. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is social media in general is a huge topic on our national level. There's a huge push to attack it, in my opinion, and shut down opposing views. Like, for example, this podcast, if we say something that the Facebook gods don't like,
Yeah, they should. It's just like this.
I mean,
It's ridiculous.
Raylene could tell you there's been posts that we're just sharing an event, and I won't say the event because
Then this interview will just
correct. So, and it's strange, and I just want to know what your thoughts are on social media and the involvement of the government in that space.
Yeah, I'm a free speech person, and I think that's where you draw the line there. I did see something recently about, I don't know if I should say this now, but Facebook being asked to withhold some information related to COVID and things like that. So yeah, and that's very disturbing that maybe our government is doing that. But I'm in favor of free speech. You want to watch it, you watch it. If you don't, you don't have to watch
scroll
it.
by.
Yeah, go right by it.
Yeah, it's just like flipping
I
the
do think
TV channels.
it's kind of you made me think of going to West Point. I actually met Walter Cronkite.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, at West Point. And,
Did he tell you the rest of the story?
No, he's not.
Is that
no,
that's not him?
No.
Oh, wrong guy.
He's the
Never
most
mind.
trusted man in America.
Oh, okay.
Right.
It was kind of interesting because this was probably '83, and it was kind of him kind of coming to try to make amends between the military and the media after Vietnam. He gave a great speech, and I admire him. But I think that truth and there's a whole lot of kind of bias, and we kind of got away from what the New York Times used to say. All the news that's fit to print and actual news and facts, which is too bad across our media. So I think we have Vermont Daily Chronicle is kind of one of the only, call it conservative viewpoint media outlets in the state. Other than that, it's kind of all kind of way over here, which is it's too bad. Well, hopefully, I think folks really just want to hear facts and be able to make their own decision and not kind of bias and being swayed to make, to go one way or another. I think folks are really tired of that, and just gotten harder and harder. You got to really kind of scrape through and dig down to be able to, get facts and make your own decision.
So no legislation to
No.
come down on the.
I'm trying to think
What about legislation? Because I feel like and here's something that I'm just.
was it Act 230 something?
Oh, you're quoting acts. I have no clue.
No, that was something related to censorship or not on the internet. But no, I'm leaning towards free speech.
Is it free? It's not free internet. It's I think I know what you're talking about. There's a term for it, and it's totally not. The term is not really what it does. if I can't remember, but so anyway, you're not a fan of legislation.
No, free speech.
Okay, because I do have to wonder whether or not some sort of legislation into these what have become town squares, right? Like we said, we were shut down multiple times on just a post about an event that's like super important for our community.
That's too bad.
For and it's just
Right, and it was like over one word.
right,
One single
3-letter word, and it wasn't pew pew.
Yeah.
So it's just really frustrating, and
For
it would
sure.
be. There is a part of me that would like to see some legislation, but you probably don't want to get involved in companies' stuff either. But I don't know. I just figured I'd throw that out there. I don't know.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So are we letting him?
leave?
Well, we're gonna let him give us his last plug, right?
Absolutely.
And then, but we would also please invite you to check back later because a lot of people don't always watch right away.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you do the Facebook stuff at all, or if
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
somebody that oversees that for
I
you or
do,
something,
yeah.
that at least they can check because people will ask questions the
Okay.
next few days and probably and at least through the evening and into the morning
Okay.
where people ask questions. So check back and share it on your platform if you would be so kind. It would just be nice to get that out there that we're willing to be a platform for anybody that wants to
Sure.
get their message out there. And then before you give your last pitch here, if you don't mind, we just had a contest, and before Michael zips us off of here, I want to be able to say congratulations and say who the winners were for our competition, our little
Sure.
thing that we did. So the winner of the $100 cash was Jennifer Toriano Poulin. The winner of the $40 Emsley's gift certificate for that is Carrie Ann Martell, and the winner of the 802 swag is Linda Kuchar.
Oh.
So congratulations to all,
Congratulations.
and thank you all so very much for your help. We are just up over 4,700 followers now. Close to
Nice.
48, very close to 48 in a very short time, and it definitely is much appreciated. For our goal, of course, is to hit 5,000. So continue to invite as many as you like, and then we'll go on to the next goal. But thank you all for your amazing support and trusting in us to do this for you.
And of course, share this show,
Yes, please.
because it gets the metrics up and it gets Gerald's information out there so that people can make
Yes.
an informed decision in November. And we certainly we do appreciate you coming
Oh,
on.
my
So,
pleasure.
Yes.
It's great to be here.
so if you could just give us like the last hurrah
Sure.
of this is why you should vote for
Well,
me.
I think the informed decision thing is very important, and Vermonters have an opportunity here to change the course, and with a vote to get some balance back at the state level and at the federal level, and for me, I have 40 years of relative experience in work and producing results. I'm going to do that for Vermonters. I've thoroughly enjoyed campaigning across the whole state. But the truth is, the state's not doing well right now. It's become unaffordable because of the progressive left and the policies that they've put on, the payroll tax and the child care tax and the clean heat standard coming down the road. So, and at the federal level, frankly, Senator Sanders, 34 years in Congress, he's had his chance to improve Vermont. It is not. It's actually, I think, in decline. I want to bring jobs, secure the border. Work to grow business here in Vermont so Vermonters can stay here, make it safe and affordable again. The affordable part comes with discipline from our federal government. We have actually $36 trillion debt. We cannot, another $2 trillion this year, we cannot keep going in that direction. So I'll be accessible like nobody's business. I've talked about if I'm elected, I'll visit every county once a year. I will have hours-long Q&A. You, every Vermonter, will get a chance to meet me. I will address your issue, and I'll deliver results for a better Vermont. And I think it's time. I love Vermont, but we're not doing well right now. We can't keep going on the same path. The progressive left is it's not working. Like we talked about, it's time for change. I appreciate you having me on. I was in the parade here a little while ago. It was a great parade. I was up at the Fishing Game Club, which is awesome. So the taxidermy, including a polar bear. I don't know if
Yes.
you've seen that.
Yes.
So it's great to be here, and I look forward to meeting Vermonters in the next 50 days, and I hope to have your consideration and your vote, and I'll deliver for Vermont.
All right. Well, thank you very much
Thank you.
for coming on the Barre Beat. Barre Beat live tonight. We deployed Malloy, and now it's up to the folks that are watching to share the Barre Beat with your friends. And once again, Gerald, really appreciate you coming on. Trekked all the way from
No problem. It's
West-
super nice. Thank you for having me. Weathersfield.
Weathersfield,
Right,
Weathersfield.
yeah, you mentioned Calvin Coolidge, so you know that the speech about I love him. So first sentence is I look upon a Scotney. So I look at my backyard as a Scotney.
All right. Well, again, thank you for coming, and thank you everybody for watching the Barre Beat podcast live, Main Street, Barre, Vermont, from the 802 Inside Scoop Studios.